So Trevor, over to you. If you could give a quick background on yourself and just sort of dive into some of the things that you're working on.
Sure. Hey, everyone. I'm Trevor. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I lead the go-to-market systems team at Miro, and I've been here for about 3 years now. And it's been an exciting time with the move to remote, and something that we all thought was maybe coming, or we were hoping was coming. And it's been an exciting time to kind of figure out all these different processes on the fly, and figure out which ones work and which ones are successful. So excited to share some of those learnings with everyone here today. Prior to Miro, I was in consulting, doing similar kind of revenue operations, business technology, consulting, both for SaaS companies and for CPG companies as well. So I did that for about 3 or 4 years before Miro as well. And so it's been a nice change from consulting, from those of you that have been there or in it now. It's definitely nice to think about one thing rather than 100 different things, which is great. So looking forward to getting to know folks today and hearing kind of what everyone else is working on internally and externally as well. So one of the things that Breezy and I started talking about when we got together was like saving sales reps time, saving their times that are being spent on like non-worthwhile actions or non-large revenue driving actions. So obviously, as a product-led growth company, we rely on the virality of the product to drive a lot of that. But there's more than just kind of that. Like there's more than just the new logo side, and more than just the net new business side. I think a lot of the times, a lot of the things we're focusing on now is we've gotten a lot of great customers through this pandemic and through the shift to remote. But the idea now is like, how do we learn more about them, and how do we expand them further without having to spend having all of our sales reps spend all of their time kind of individually? How do we level up that information? How do we streamline the communication, and how do we automate a lot of their actions? So interested to see kind of if any of you guys are kind of struggling with that as well, or looking to go through that also. But was just going to kind of share one example of an expansion scenario that we're working through now that maybe will resonate with some of you. So we offer like a program through our platform that allows folks, after they buy Miro for the first time, like at Enterprise, after the initial freemium or after the initial self-service plan, we offer them a free service that allows them to go above the seats that they've bought at no penalty, and that no stopping by the admin. We allow them to add the users, which is great because it allows the virality that takes place during PLG to continue. But at the same time, it makes it difficult for our customer supporting teams or our customer success teams to really understand exactly what the value is that Miro is providing to them, because we're not as in touch with them, since there's not as many touch points with the sales reps due to this approach. So we're looking to kind of automate a lot of that process, both the discovery of figuring out kind of what is the use case, but also collecting the revenue from the folks that are using more than they should be. So we're doing that in a myriad of ways, kind of through surveys, through usage tracking within the product, and then leveling that up through Snowflake and bubbling that up through Looker to the individual teams, both on the marketing side, the success side, and on the sales side, obviously. One of the key learnings I think we've learned here is that we need to know what exactly the value is that we're driving, and we need to know what the product value is to each and every one of the people. So if they're paying for 100 seats, not every person is using it for the same usage or has the same use case to be using the product. So we need to figure out each one of those 100 people, what is the use case that they're using it for, and how can we drive both marketing actions, success actions, sales actions to that? How can we offer them features that maybe they're not aware of now, and how can we then get to kind of the person above them or the people that they're working with closely? So one way we've tried to do that is kind of through a mixture of through Snowflake, through Outreach, and through Looker. So I can dive into that a little bit now if that makes sense for folks. But all of our usage data is tracked in Snowflake, so we're able to get very great kind of surface level raw data of what's being used. I'm not sure how many of you have used Miro, but one of our big indicators is how much things are being shared. So it's not just one individual working on something, it's individuals working together on something. So sharing a board or sharing data with one another, we feel that that's like a collaborative session that gives us an insight that this product is moving throughout the organization. It may not just be in this one place that we're looking for it. So we likely have sold to one group, and we're bubbling their usage information from Snowflake up. And at the same time, we're mirroring that with kind of their leveling through ZoomInfo enrichment and where they sit within the organization, what we feel like their buying potential is, or whether they're like kind of an economic buyer or economic budget holder or not. And through each one of those things, we've set up customized outreach campaigns that allow folks to understand some of the other features maybe that they're not using. So whether that's integrations with tools that we know are in their tech stack through ZoomInfo as well. One example would be like Jira and Atlassian. We have an integration with them. So if we see that they're also using these tools, we send like specialized messaging to them through outreach, and the sales rep doesn't need to do anything in that process at all. All they need to know is that there's more information being sent to their customers about some of the features that are available, and that they should expect to receive inquiries kind of about how they can be ready to use those. So in the same time, as we think about the theme of saving their time, we're really thinking about saving their time, but in addition to that, like how can we make the time that they're spending more focused on revenue driving? So
Trevor, quick question here. So like of your setup, can you describe a little bit of your setup internally? And so who's kind of handling which parts of that? So you're talking about sort of like prioritizing the time spent for the sales reps. Can you just give a quick outline of how it looks internally over at Miro?
Sure. Yeah. So we have, I think, a pretty normal setup from folks that I've spoken with. We have SDRs, we have account executives, and we have account managers. So our SDRs and our account executives are responsible for closing kind of the new business, or what we call like new logos. So the first time that we're either working with that team or with that organization altogether. So a lot of times these folks, given our PLG model, are already either using Miro at a self-service level or even at a freemium level. So a lot of the work that they're doing is prospecting into what, like maybe someone reached out to us that's using a self-service plan, but there may be other free users that are in there as well too. So a lot of the hard work that they're doing is kind of looking through the usage and looking through the organizations that exist within Snowflake and Looker, and determining like where else could there be beneficial usage for Miro. And then at that point, once the prospecting and deal is complete, we hand that to like an account manager and a CSM, which I think is probably how most of you guys are set up as well too, who are responsible for both continuing the virality and continuing the usage, but also upselling potential other teams as well.
Okay, got it. And then you were talking about sort of prioritizing the outreach of the sales team for those like expansion or churn or upsell opportunities. Eric asked, were you referring to outreach like the activity or the tool? Potentially both, I suppose.
Potentially both, yeah, I guess in the way I was saying it, yeah. But outreach in the automation, definitely in the tool, the email sequencing tool. But yeah, in terms of time saving, the outreach as well.
Got it. Okay, cool. All right. And then I guess let's just cover quick on the tech stack point of view. So yeah, I saw you have ZoomInfo, outreach, others that you're willing to kind of share in your current tech stack.
Yeah, so ZoomInfo is extremely important for us. We're able to see kind of what competitors maybe they're using, or what tools that we integrate with, or key buying cycles that we see, and key buying indicators that we see that folks that use a specific tool set, maybe more immature companies or smaller companies, are likely to move over to something more mature. So that data is very, very expensive and not always as reliable as likely, but can be extremely helpful in just streamlining less questions to ask and more poignant questions. So when you get on a call, we use Gong for call recording. So when I listen to calls, the connotation and the change and the customer's voice that are in their opinion, when you come to the call knowing exactly what they're using already, despite them not having told you, just changes the perception of how prepared you are and how prepared your reps are and how serious they feel you are. Kind of about making these changes or about like improving their organization. We're really focused on like how can we improve productivity of these organizations, and how can our product drive productivity or drive cohesion between groups that are like spread out remotely tighter. So we lead with value. Like we really want to drive value before we drive sales. Breezy, I'm forgetting your question a little bit, but I hope that answered it a bit.
Yeah, and just like the rest of tech stack, so you have ZoomInfo to kind of highlight the tech stack of the people that you're reaching out to, which was to answer Carlo's question. That's how they were kind of figuring out which tech stack their current users or customers are using. But also then sort of internally for you all. So you named outreach, data warehouse. I can't remember if you had said Snowflake specifically or not. Kind of going into that.
Yeah, sure. So we use Snowflake internally and Looker to display a good amount of that, and when we pipe some of the Snowflake data back into Salesforce as well too, where necessary or where relevant. But I think we're in a place now where we've bought a bunch of these tools, and now we realized maybe like 6 months ago when shadowing like the sellers or shadowing folks that they're bouncing between all these different tools to figure out like, okay, the usage is over here, then I need to email someone over here, then I need to update my forecast over here. So one of the things we've been kind of focusing on now is how do we drive like one place to enter all that or one place to view all of that. We're still working on it. So if anyone has any ideas, I know there's some cool tools that have come out to kind of integrate all of these products that we've been looking into as well. But yeah, now that kind of, I think we started in a stage where we didn't have all the tools. We didn't have all the enterprise level tools. We was much more time intensive for both the marketing teams and the sales teams to A, surface this information, but B, actually act upon the information. I think now it's a little bit more of how do we just streamline kind of all of that data. We have it all in one. We have it all in all these places. How do we get it in one place where folks can be actionable every minute that they're working, rather than only some of the minutes that they're working. So Jack, reading your question here, where else in your org can use Miro expansion campaign? What kind of approach does your team take to continuously improve the streamline the data of the buyer's persona and tech stack? The data is not as good as we like, so I'd like to hear your
I'm happy to speak to the question too,
sure.
if anything needs to be cleared up. Just because like I think you touched on it a little bit here, is that like a lot of this data is very expensive and it comes from, you know, some sources that are less than optimal sometimes. And you know, we're dealing with a lot of the same issues here around trying to identify, you know, buyer personas and ICPs and things like that. And I was just wondering if you have any, you know, sort of learnings from your experience both in the consulting space and then also within Miro around how do you incrementally improve that process so that you're kind of cutting down on those outliers and those kind of marginal cases where, you know, you might be misaligned with the buyer persona, and, you know, because we're dealing with that over here too.
Yeah, and I think like ZoomInfo or any of those tools similar are like, in my mind, they're always delayed. And like if Jack, if you were to get a new job tomorrow, you wouldn't go to ZoomInfo and tell them, you'd go to LinkedIn, right? But LinkedIn has made it so difficult to query, like through their API. They've actually set up teams to stop folks from doing that rather than just opening it up. So I find that the ZoomInfo data is like at least 3 months behind, most likely. I find the tooling data is a little bit more up to date than, I'm not sure what their source is for that, but I find the tooling data is a little bit more up to date. I think nothing is better than asking the team. So one thing that we set up for our account managers was a kind of automated surveying of like, this is less on like the tool stack, but more, maybe you could apply it to that, but like we drew a bit more on like the value that's being added from the product. So like we asked poignant questions based on either like what we found out from ZoomInfo or what they told us in a previous survey or previous engagement, and we asked them poignantly, like, okay, you told us last time you're using this for ideation, like which of the products that you came out with recently, like, or which of the features that you came out with recently helped drive this, right? So it's more personalized. And I think like I'm a buyer too for our company. So like, I don't want to spend a ton of time on that phone. Like I'm getting told by someone like, hey, go check out this tool. Like, it's very cool. Like you'll like it. I don't want to like spend an hour and a half, like getting the sales pitch, right? If someone can come to me with like, you told us these were the few things that were important to you. I see in your business, this is tied to the importance, or this is tied to the growth. Like, let's streamline that. So I think like the surveying thing, especially for our account managers on the strategic side, the folks that are selling to kind of Fortune 100 companies, they don't have the time either. So the more that we can be personalized with them with less touch, the better. So I'd recommend the surveys. And automating that as quickly as you can. We did that through Salesforce. It was pretty easy with an Airtable form and just send it out at a cadence through outreach. It only took like the team maybe a couple of weeks to spin up, and I'm sure it could be better, but we're definitely getting good feedback on that thus far, and we're seeing deals kind of come in from those teams as well too.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks very much.
You're welcome. We're thinking of adding an alternate data provider. So for Sean, are you looking for kind of other regions coverage, or are you looking for Americas, or where mostly are you selling?
Yeah, we're just exploring other options because of the gaps that you just described in Zoom Info's database. That's something that can be used as a secondary source for a lot of our ADR teams here at Snappy.
Yeah, we looked at a few tools as well too. Specifically, like in EMEA, we were getting a lot of feedback that the data was not good. Specifically, like France and Germany were not good, but yeah, we did some trials and we didn't see much improvement. I know Cognizant has a lot of great feedback in the industry right now for secondary data stores, but I think it's very difficult to understand. I think it's like wearing clothes. Sometimes you're not supposed to go out naked, but also like you don't know kind of sometimes how accurate it can be. So I saw the mention kind of about using Sales Navigator. I agree, but that's very time intensive for reps. It takes multiple hours for them to go through each and every profile and click through them. I think it's probably the best approach. Don't get me wrong, but very time intensive and can like focus them away from the most important actions.
It depends on the volume.
How so?
I mean, if you're sending out bulk email or phone blasts, then probably it's Seamless or Zoom Info or other platforms that you're picking and choosing data from, and maybe a bunch of email addresses targeted to your ICP. But if you are more into one-to-one outreach, probably Sales Navigator would be the way to go. But then again, it depends, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, what like how many users are you guys usually selling to at a company?
That's what I said, it depends, right? So if you're a small company, targeting maybe the C level or something, and then you need to go via Sales Navigator rather than a lot of the Zoom Info stuff that's already outdated.
Agreed. Especially when you're speaking to those folks who want to be very poignant. Yeah, Daniel, I've heard great things about Lead IQ. We've taken some demos of that. Anything specifically you'd like to share kind of about that handoff from the LinkedIn data into automation? Oh, no worries. Has anyone else?
We're actually using Lead IQ though. We've been happy with it as well.
Okay. How are you guys doing that, Griffin or Breezy?
From an end user perspective, I feel like Lead IQ is really straightforward because you don't have to once you pop up a LinkedIn profile, it automatically syncs. You just press one button, it syncs into your Salesforce and Outreach.
And that'll drop them in the sequence then?
And into a sequence, yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
So one of the things we were talking about before that we started to get into was like all this different data that you're pulling on your end, Trevor. So you have your usage data, you have some of this survey data, you have some data around different emails that you've sent to your users as well, and how they've kind of interacted or clicked on different parts of the marketing emails that you sent out. Can you go into a little bit more detail about each of those different types of data, and then also how you're kind of like pulling together those insights to actually have a good conversation with folks?
Yeah, definitely. So we rely heavily on like our analytics engineering team to do that. So those are the Snowflake gurus at our company. So we kind of work with them to provide the sources, and they provide us like the tables and the views to work off of. So yeah, the survey data is great. The usage data is great. The email data is great. And then also kind of the last piece, like the firmographic data, like we're talking about. So we try to marry all those together and understand. We just provide a score basically based on an algorithm that we've created, and we just mark it like red, yellow, green, whether we feel like these folks are ready for expansion or ready for future growth. I think a lot of the times we base it off of like, we have one enterprise plan maybe that someone's paying for, but then we see maybe 15 or 20 other free or self-service plans. So for instance, that would be like ripe for, that would be green, right? That would be ripe for someone to spend their time on. And it would be worth kind of, as Amir mentioned, like actually like reaching out to these individual C-level or these individual economic buyers in that case, because we know there's chance for greater expansion. Just on the opposite side as well too, if we start to see that the counts of users on these self-service plans are going down, or the last login dates are, you know, last over 30 days, something like that, we can start to send kind of a yellow or a orange score towards that. And that also, like, so we use that like not just for the sales team, but it's bi-directional. So growth marketing will be looking at this as well too, so they know kind of like, hey, let's build up the messaging, or let's build up the pop-ups to show that hey, you haven't logged in a while. Here's some new features while you've been gone. Here's some new features you missed. Here's some new products we launched. Here's a new integration we launched. So I think the idea is like, you have all these different data sources and you get it together. It shouldn't just be for one team. It should be for all the teams to use together, so that everyone's in unison together, delivering the same message. Because all of us know there's nothing worse than like you're getting a sequence from the sales rep and then you're getting a pop-up in the app and then none of it is cohesive. I feel like that's like been the secret sauce to ours as well too, is like, especially when we were smaller and grittier, I think like having the one model and the one data model that everyone's working off of is highly important, because everyone's working off the same metrics.
Yeah, when you talked about kind of pulling all of these insights together, are you doing that and putting these kind of color coding to it, scoring, I guess? Is that on the user level, on the account level? Is it on both?
Yeah, three places. So user, organization, which is like like their org within our product, and then the account level, so like the customer level. So there could be multiple, like it's a one to many all the way from the top down, right? So there can be one account with all of these different organizations in them. Each one could have a different value, or it could be like have a different health. So how do we roll that up all together? But then how do we also like tackle them individually? So some of our more strategic accounts have like inside sales reps and like account executives. So the inside sales rep would be more focused on kind of like the individuals and let's use the same vernacular, the users and like the organizations, whereas the account executive is more focused on, the account manager is more focused on the health of the entire book of business within that customer. So then maybe they're speaking directly with kind of the C-level or the economic buyer, but there should be other conversations going on with your power users, understanding kind of what are the use cases, what are things that they wish they had. And that really changes we haven't really got much into that, but that really changes the perception of your company as well too with the buyer, is if they're kind of asking for features and you're putting them in the product backlog and giving updates on those, and that can all be automated too, because obviously the product backlog is likely an Airtable or something like that as well too, and easy to rip down with Zapier or a tool like that, and give an update saying that, yeah, we're starting working on this. We'd love to bring you in for a user interview. That can really gain the trust with the customers as well too, and it's very simple to set up.
Awesome. Question from Jeremy. Do you want to ask that one, Jeremy?
Yeah. Hi, Trevor. I'm really curious to know the product usage data that you use to kind of anticipate whether there's an expansion opportunity there. Has that kind of always followed your gut feel, or with experience, have you learned that the data tells a different story? And I ask that from a position that we're kind of early innings in terms of doing this. It's all in front of us, and I think I've got a really good idea about what product usage indicates that expansion opportunity, but I haven't done it, so I don't really know. I'm just curious to know if you were really accurate or if it's changed a lot.
It's definitely changed a lot, and like we're more accurate now than we were 5 years ago for sure. So yeah, in the position you're in now, I think we were wrong a lot initially, and then like I mentioned earlier that we noticed that like sharing of boards was something that really drove our expansion. So that wasn't somewhere we got to overnight. Like we looked at data for years to figure that out, and now we know that it's a leading indicator. So we drive like growth marketing and marketing action to sharing across teams, especially like with a company with a product like ours. I'm not sure if it's similar to yours, but like we can have folks that are in HR using the tool and folks in product and folks in marketing. None of them know that they're all using it together. So even just informing like the economic buyer of that, obviously, but then informing each other that the sharing can happen and the sharing can take place. That's where like we see the virality really hit. So to answer your question, I think like we see that it's pretty accurate now, but we didn't always know that. We didn't always know that that was like the leader to virality for us.
Yeah, got it. And just a quick follow-up on that. Has that led to more in-person selling, or more kind of human selling, if you like, or more kind of product-led automation?
Both, I think. Like we really want the usage. Like the money will follow the usage. So like we see more collaboration happening, which allows like more folks to sequence, so more product-led usage, but then also it leads to, I think, more in-person selling as well too, and gives the folks a story to tell as well too when they get on the call, because a lot of the folks that they maybe go and speak to on the call are not aware that all these different teams are using the tool, and it can really be a powerful engine to walk into a call with.
Right. Thank you.
Awesome.
I know we have 1 minute left. Breezy, are there other topics we want to?
Yeah, it looks like we have one quick question from Claire. How's the free Miro offering on Google Hangouts performing?
I haven't looked at the dashboard in a while, and so I don't know.
That is a cool offering, though. That's an interesting. I like it.
Yeah, I think we're trying. I think usage can come from anywhere. It can come from schools. It can come from students. It can come from professionals at Fortune 100 companies that don't discount who can be your power users and who can drive revenue for you, whether it's this year or in 3 years.
Awesome. Well, Trevor, thanks so much. Thanks everybody for all the questions. We will put up a recording of this and I'll send it to everybody if you want to rewatch or listen in on anything again or share it around. But otherwise, thanks, Trevor. Appreciate it.
Later,
Thank
y'all.
you.
Bye, everybody.